several other places. John and Ann are with Lens International Malaysia, which is our national organization in Malaysia and Singapore. And they've worked with you, obviously, but also other locations around the world, building our network and community. Terry and the ICA USA community have done work with Africa and other places. So each ICA is looking at how they can connect to the world and be a part of the world. And this is a key to our peer-to-peer work. I don't want to read all this, but ICA Japan has in some ways kept the rest of us alive in the world for many years with their funding work, and are now working in projects in Haiti, in Brazil, in Indonesia, and so there are a lot of different projects going on. If you wish to be connected to these projects, ICA USA is looking for ways to connect with the world and how that connects to their programs, and so it's an interactive conversation. Chile has formed a Spanish-speaking Skype group, so those of you that are Spanish-speaking and would like to be involved with Spanish-speaking facilitators, that is already in formation. If any of you speak fluent French, we are looking at connecting with our colleagues in West Africa and Canada and other places to begin to have a French-speaking facilitation community going. I'm meeting in Paris in February with a group of facilitators that are trying to get the top community going in Paris, and so I'll be doing a PSP with them in February. But each nation is looking at how they relate to their region, how they relate to the world, and how they care for their local. And so it's not an either-or kind of choice, it's figuring out both. We have a new magazine called The Winds and Waves. They are open to articles. If you'd like to submit an article to the ICA, to the web, to the Winds and Waves, contact ICA USA. There will be a future, what's it called? Issue, magazine, copy, whatever it is, on top, and the future of top. Exactly when the timing of that is not clear, but you will be invited to.
How often does it come out?
I was afraid somebody was going to ask me that question.
Three times a year.
3 times a year. The next issue will be in February, and if you want to get a copy, you can subscribe through ICA USA. But
and it's always on our website.
And it's always on their website. The editorial committee of this is made up of people all over the world who volunteered their time to do the editorial work on the columns, on the articles, etc. And the articles are contributed by every ICA and anybody else that has edge thinking that they think will help us. And this coming issue in February is going to be focused on Nepal, on the conference themes that we have working. So I'm going to say a word about that. I don't know how much time I have left, but I think I probably don't have any, so I'm going to try to do this really quickly. We have the 8th Global Conference on Human Development coming up in Kathmandu, Nepal, in October 29th and November the 2nd. You are all invited. Not only to come to Nepal, but if you don't think you can make it to Nepal, there will also be a virtual conference, which will be about creating the dialogue and how that dialogue is going to work. And this is another project which we're going to be working with the sisters on and with other people in the U.S. and in Kathmandu, and to create a team that will begin to pull together how do we do an interactive global conference. And there's been a lot of work done by the other people on this, so we're not starting from scratch, but how do we have this be a way that everyone in the world has the opportunity to be in this conversation. The 6 topics.
Larry,
sure.
The website.
www.humandevelopmentconference, all one word.com. And you can register, you can pay. They take any money of any kind of currency in the world. The way we are doing our conferences is it is an ICA Nepal conference. So they are totally responsible for all the funding, et cetera, and for all the costs involved and things like that. Every ICA is contributing support and help, but they are the responsible organization. 6 topics, which we're going to spend a little bit more time talking about right now and getting your thinking about. The 6 are growing a new sense of leadership, which is and this is one of the areas where a lot of us are working in our facilitation work, is how do we support and sustain the new leadership that's needed, the facilitative leadership style, et cetera, that's needed and growing in organizations and in communities. And how do we, and what are edge things going on in the world that we need to be tapping into and learning from? Not just what is our work in TOP or ICA, but also what are others. Reshaping education for the 21st century, the work that's just been done here, revising and updating, or whatever the right word is for the image change, image shift is part of this conversation. But there's also a lot of other work on education that's going on in the world. We're trying to begin to hear those voices and figure out what makes sense. Promoting participation and accountability for peace building and good governance. We're going to Nepal. Nepal is a place where they have been in revolution for many years, and that stopped 2 years ago. But now they're still trying to figure out how do we then be at peace with one another. And so it's a great laboratory in itself, and at the same time we have people coming from other places in the world where this is, for all of us, this is a place of concern. Building a viable future for the planet Earth is about the environmental work and the environmental transformation, the sustainable community, et cetera, work. Building strategies for comprehensive development. Bill Staples is the theme coordinator for this, but it's about looking at the whole area of community development and how it is that we can learn from our own work, but also, again, from the work of others, as to what is the sort of the threshold or the edge of that work. And finally, resourcing human development, which is looking at both from the perspective of philanthropy supporting, but also from the local supporting. So looking at both perspectives. Several of the ICAs in Africa have gotten together and created a resource manual. That's not the name they use, but it's a manual about how the local can resource itself. And what does that mean? How do you look for those resources? How do you discern what those resources are you have, and then apply those in the transformation you choose? So those are the 6 categories, 6 topics, and that's enough. Yes?
You mentioned that although the revolution was over 2 years ago, it's an entirely safe place.
Oh!
And Nepal is...
I have a slideshow I was
is
supposed to
so
show
well
you.
connected. I see in Nepal.
Have anybody ever heard of a small mountain called, what's the name of that mountain? Everest?
Small?
Small little mountain. I've been there. I have a T-shirt that says I was at Mount Everest. I was in a plane at the time, but I was there. Anyway, it's the site. You have Buddha's birthplace. You have the culture of Nepal. You have the mountains. You have the trekking. It is an awesome place, and it is peaceful. There is no violence in the nation. There's struggle around peace building, but it is not about violence. So it is one of the safest places in the world. And I'm going to turn it over to Jim.
Well, Larry,
Yeah.
Aaron has a question. 2 questions. First one pretty quick. Do you have to be a top network member to participate, or can
Not at all.
anyone?
This is a global conference for all of those who care about life in the world and want to come.
Okay. And then, so second question, just kind of backing up to your earlier conversation with us. Can you explicitly explain how the ICA centers connect? What binds them? Is it values? Is it method? Is it language? Is it?
Yes.
Yes. And then, so my
That was an
question-
easy one to answer.
What values specifically and what methods specifically? I mean, it implies, but I guess I feel like I need to hear it.
Okay. Can I say that explicitly? Probably not. What connects ICA, each ICA is grounded in the same values of serving the communities, dealing with the social contradiction in their location, dealing with and trying to transform and learning from the communities that they are a part of. So where each ICA is locally grounded and is profoundly responsible for their local grounding. At the same time, each ICA is globally connected and responsible to be a part of the global network. So one of the things we look at for our statutory membership requirements to the 2 of the 4 values are that we're locally grounded and that we're globally connected. So that there is no ICA that is simply a recipient ICA. That every ICA is seeing itself as sharing and learning with the rest of the ICAs in the world. Like I say, each ICA is unique. We have network organization ICAs. We have big buildings in Chicago. In Nepal, we have an ICA of about 60 people working in 7 different locations around the nation. They have a training center. They have so it's very established. It's also one of the most educated ICAs in the universe because the Dr. Tatwa Tsimzima, who started it, also recruited a lot of his graduate students, so therefore everybody either has a master or a doctorate. And I feel, anyway, so there are a lot of different dynamics, but the core is the same. How do we respond to the local? Now, there are going to be a lot of conversations about this. I'm glad to talk and I'm glad to answer, but I also want to go into the next piece because I don't want to miss out on your input. But my email is open 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. I do respond to any email as well as I can, and if I don't know the answer, I'm also glad to say that. My own history in this organization, I joined when I was a child and have transformed my relationship to it multiple times over the years. I'm proud to be a top facilitator, and I have been a top facilitator since before we called it top. But at the same time, I'm very proud of learning from all my colleagues and learning the wisdom of the world. So thank you very much. I can turn this off.
Right.
There, it's done.
How many of us remember when we had the International Trainer of Trainers programs? Some of us hosted some of the top staff from around the world. Catherine and I hosted Tatwa, who started the ICA Nepal following his training.
Mike.
My friend Mike.
It was one of the thrills of my life to be
Twice.
able to meet the people internationally that are coming in to start ICAs, to develop ICAs, and all of the people around the world have been trained in the ICA top methods, at least the participatory planning portions of the top methods. And there's an expansion of that going on, as Larry said, teaching imaginal education in Zimbabwe
And Kenya.
and Kenya.
And Nepal. And Bangladesh. And
All those things. So one of the things we say to people in our Center for Strategic Facilitation courses is when you become a participant in one of our courses, you're also becoming a part of the ICA family around the world. And that's a very exciting thing to think about, is that we can go to any of these locations and be with colleagues who are doing substantive and important work to make this world a better place. One of the things that most attracted me initially to ICA, one of the things that surprised me, I'm going to move this flip chart over.
Other way. Now, there you go.
As I was on the ICA board for 6 years, and at one of our board meetings, someone told me about the Rural Development Conference that had gone on, and the process that was used around this Rural Development Conference. How many of you have heard of the Rural Development Conference? Yeah, there's a book that's come out about that. And what interested me so much is that for 2 years, all the ICAs around the world studied what were the best projects in rural development. And they all contributed, sent representatives to come to India. So we think of that map that Larry had with ICAs all over the world, studying what are the best practices in rural development, and then coming to India to infuse that gathering with knowledge from around the world. And then following the conference, taking that knowledge back to their local communities to improve practices that would help in rural development. Now, we're going to do a little mini piece of that conference this morning, because we all have knowledge, expertise, understanding, aspirations about how we can make our world a better place. So this morning is a mini kind of rural development conference on these 6 themes. So I'd like each of our facilitators for the small groups to go to where they're going to be working, and just to read off your theme and where you are. And then I'm going to ask for each of you to choose one of the 6 themes to go to. And we're going to be addressing 3 questions, actually 4 questions. What do you see as the greatest challenges that are happening in this theme? What are some emerging best practices? Now, these are practices we know about that are percolating up, that you see that are making a difference in this thematic area. But then also, what can we envision or will to happen? What do you have that you know that would really make a difference in this area? May not be happening yet, but through imagination, through will, can happen. And then the last question, hopefully we'll have enough time to get to this, is there anything that we want to do, or what do we want to do as a top network that will help support these 6 themes? So I'm going to just have everybody read off where they are so you can listen and see where they are. We're going to take very little time to get you to your stations, your name, and what topic you have.
And we're still ending at 10?
I would like to request a few extra minutes if we can. No? Then come back at 10. We're going to do a very short plenary at 10.
Okay, great. I am Susan, and my topic is reshaping education for the 21st century, and I'm here.
I am Ann, and I am going to be leading the Building a Viable Future for the Planet Earth. So come here.
I'm Nylene. I'm doing resource and human development right back here.
I am George. I am growing a new sense of leadership.
All right.
I'm Kathleen, and we're going to be talking about promoting participation and accountability for peace building and good governance.
And I am Elise, and we're focusing on building strategies for comprehensive development.
Okay, move quickly.